When a billionaire who thought he'd never be a father stumbles upon a dying pregnant woman in the rain, the hospital bill isn't the only shock waiting for him. The DNA results will shatter everything he thought he knew about his carefully controlled life. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another story that'll have your heart racing and your mind spinning. Please, subscribe, like, and drop a comment below. And tell me, where in the world are you watching from? Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next in this one. The rain hammered against the windshield like 1,000 angry fists as Ethan Corleone gripped the steering wheel of his Bentley, his knuckles white against the leather. Thunder cracked overhead, splitting the November sky, but he barely heard it over the roar of his own thoughts. Another failed meeting. Another doctor shaking his head with that practiced sympathy that made Ethan want to flip the mahogany desk between them. "I'm sorry, Mr. Corleone. Your test results show severe oligospermia. Natural conception is highly unlikely. We could explore other options, but nothing." 42 years old. A net worth that could buy a small country. Penthouses in 3 cities. A company that employed thousands. And yet, the one thing money couldn't buy was the child he'd ached for since burying his parents 5 years ago. The heir who would carry on the Corleone name. The son or daughter who would finally fill the silence of his empty mansion. The traffic light ahead flickered red. Ethan eased the Bentley to a stop, his jaw clenched so tight his teeth hurt. That's when he saw her. A figure hunched against the brick wall of a closed convenience store, barely visible through the rain-soaked darkness. At first, he thought it was just a pile of discarded blankets. God knew this part of downtown had become a graveyard for the forgotten. But then, the pile moved, shifted, and a woman's face emerged from beneath a soaked cardboard box, twisted in agony. She was black, young, maybe mid-20s, and heavily pregnant. So pregnant that even from his car, Ethan could see her stomach was enormous beneath the tattered beige coat she clutched around herself. Her braids were plastered to her face, and her mouth opened in a silent scream as her body convulsed. For 3 seconds, Ethan sat frozen. He had a meeting across town, a conference call with Tokyo in an hour. He didn't stop for homeless people. He wrote checks to charities so he wouldn't have to. But something in the way her hand pressed against her swollen belly, protective, desperate, loving, cracked something inside his chest. "Damn it," he muttered, and slammed the car into park. The rain soaked through his $1,000 suit the moment he stepped out. He didn't care. He ran to her, his Italian leather shoes splashing through puddles, and dropped to his knees on the filthy sidewalk. Hey, can you hear me?" His voice came out rougher than he intended. Her eyes fluttered open. They were brown, rich, and deep, but clouded with pain and something else. Fear. Not of him, of losing what she was fighting to protect. "My baby," she gasped, her voice barely a whisper. "Please, don't let them take my baby." Who's trying to take?" But she was fading, her head lolling to the side. Ethan didn't think. He scooped her into his arms, lighter than she should have been, dangerously light, and carried her to the Bentley. She barely stirred as he laid her across the back seat, her breathing shallow and ragged. He punched the address of Mercy General Hospital into his GPS and floored the accelerator. The ER doors burst open as he carried her through, his suit dripping rainwater and God knew what else, onto the pristine hospital floor. "I need help," he shouted. "She's pregnant, and she's—" A nurse with sharp eyes and efficiency written into every movement rushed forward with a gurney. "How far along is she?" Do you know her medical history? I don't know anything. I found her on the street. She needs help now. They whisked her away, and Ethan stood in the fluorescent-lit hallway, his heart hammering, watching as doctors and nurses swarmed around her disappearing form. One of them barked orders about fetal distress and preeclampsia and emergency C-section. A young administrator approached him with a clipboard and a tired smile. "Sir, we'll need you to fill out some paperwork. Are you family? Her husband?" "No, I found her." "We'll still need insurance information or—" "Bill me for everything," Ethan snapped, pulling out his wallet and dropping a black Amex card onto her clipboard. "I don't care what it costs. Save her. Save them both." The woman's eyes widened at the card, recognition flickering across her face. Everyone knew Ethan Corleone. But she nodded and disappeared. He should have left then. He'd done his good deed, written his check. But something kept his feet glued to that cold hospital floor. His eyes locked on the swinging doors where they'd taken her. An hour passed, maybe 2. Ethan paced, his wetsuit clinging uncomfortably to his skin, but he didn't leave to change. He couldn't explain it. This pull, this need to know she'd be okay. Finally, a doctor emerged, pulling off surgical gloves. His face was grim. "Mr. Corleone, she's stable. The baby's stable. We performed an emergency C-section. It's a boy." Relief flooded through him, so intense it made his knees weak. "Thank God. Is she awake?" "Not yet, but there's something you need to know." The doctor's expression shifted, confusion mixing with something else. Something that made Ethan's blood run cold. "We ran standard blood work and checked her file against our database for any existing medical records. There was a match. From a fertility clinic." Ethan's brow furrowed. "I don't understand." The doctor pulled out a tablet, his finger hovering over the screen like he wasn't sure he should show it. "Mr. Corleone, according to these records, the genetic father of her child is listed in our system. The DNA markers match a sample stored at Renaissance Fertility Clinic." "So, what does that have to—" "The sample belongs to you, sir." The world tilted. Ethan's hand shot out, gripping the wall for support as the doctor's words echoed in his skull. "Belongs to you. Belongs to you. Belongs to you." "That's impossible," he whispered. But even as he said it, memories crashed through his mind. The fertility clinic he'd visited 3 years ago, desperate and grieving, storing samples for a future that never came. The paperwork, the promises of confidentiality, the assurances that his genetic material would never be used without his explicit consent. "I need to see her," Ethan said, his voice hoarse. "Now!" Because somewhere in this hospital was a woman he'd never met, carrying a secret that would either destroy him or give him everything he'd ever wanted. And the nightmare, or the miracle, was only beginning. What do you think happened at that fertility clinic? Drop your theories in the comments below. And if you're loving this story, hit that like button and subscribe. The hospital room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of monitors that beeped a steady rhythm. Proof of life, where there had almost been death. Ethan stood in the doorway, his hand frozen on the handle, staring at the woman in the bed. She looked different now, cleaned up, the rain and grime washed away to reveal smooth, dark skin, high cheekbones, and a face younger than he'd initially thought. Maybe 24, 25 at most. An IV dripped steadily into her arm, and her chest rose and fell in the shallow rhythm of medicated sleep. But it was her hand that broke him, still curved protectively over her now flat stomach, even in unconsciousness, even when the baby was no longer there to protect. "Her name is Maya Dawson," a nurse said softly from behind him, glancing at a chart. "No permanent address, no emergency contacts listed, nothing but a fake Medicaid card and a bus ticket stub from 3 months ago." Ethan's throat tightened. "The baby?" "In NICU, 5 pounds, 2 ounces. Small, but his lungs are strong. He's a fighter." The nurse smiled, but it faded when she looked at Ethan's stricken face. "Sir, are you all right?" "I need a minute." She nodded and left, the door clicking shut, with a finality that made the room feel smaller. Ethan moved to the bedside, his legs unsteady. He'd built boardrooms, commanded shareholders, fired executives without blinking. But standing here, looking at this stranger who somehow carried his child, he felt like a boy again, lost and powerless. "Who are you, Maya Dawson? And how the hell did you end up with my son?" His mind raced through the possibilities, each one darker than the last. Theft, deception, some elaborate con. But cons required planning, and the woman lying in this bed looked like she'd been fighting just to survive. The calluses on her hands, the evidence of malnourishment despite the pregnancy. The terror in her eyes when she'd begged him not to let them take her baby. Who was them? Ethan pulled out his phone and dialed his head of security. "Frank, I need you to dig into something. Renaissance Fertility Clinic. I want every record they have on me, every person who had access to my samples, every breach or irregularity in the last 3 years, and do it quietly." How quietly? Like it never happened. He hung up and turned back to Maya. In sleep, she looked almost peaceful. No, not peaceful. Exhausted. Like peace was a luxury she hadn't known in a long time. What kind of life had brought her to that street corner? What kind of desperation made a pregnant woman choose a cardboard box over shelter? And why had someone with access to his genetic material, material worth millions to the right buyer, implanted it in a homeless woman? It made no sense, unless someone wanted a baby, his baby. And they'd needed a surrogate who wouldn't ask questions, someone desperate enough to accept payment, someone disposable enough to discard when the job was done. The thought made his blood boil. "Mr. Corleone?" A different doctor appeared in the doorway, younger than the first, with kind eyes and a tablet under her arm. "I'm Dr. Sarah Connor, the neonatologist. Would you like to see your son?" Your son. 2 words that should have been impossible. 2 words that changed everything. Ethan looked back at Maya one last time, at the fierce protectiveness still etched into her sleeping face, and made a decision that would either redeem him or ruin him. "Yes," he said, his voice stronger now. "And then I want a lawyer, the best one in the state. Because if someone had used this woman, used both of them, to create and then steal his child, they were about to learn that Ethan Corleone didn't just build empires, he destroyed anyone who threatened them." The NICU was a cathedral of soft beeps and hushed voices, where tiny warriors fought battles their parents could barely comprehend. Dr. Connor led Ethan through security doors that required 2 separate codes, past rows of incubators holding infants so small they looked like they belonged to a different species. Then she stopped at the last one. "This is him." Ethan's breath caught in his chest. The baby was perfect. Impossibly, heartbreakingly perfect. Caramel skin, a shade between his pale complexion and Maya's rich brown. A shock of dark hair that stuck up at odd angles. Tiny fists curled against his chest, fighting even in sleep. But it was the shape of his nose, slightly crooked, just like Ethan's father's, that made his knees buckle. "Can I—" His voice cracked. "Can I touch him?" "Of course. He's yours." Ethan reached through the porthole, his hand trembling as his finger brushed against that impossibly small palm. The baby's fist closed around it immediately, grip surprisingly strong, and something in Ethan's chest that had been frozen for 5 years finally cracked open. "Hey, little man," he whispered. I'm your dad." The words felt foreign and right all at once. "Mr. Corleone." Frank's voice cut through the moment like ice. His head of security stood at the NICU entrance, his expression grim. "We need to talk. Now." Ethan reluctantly pulled his finger away, memorizing every detail of his son's face. "I'll be back," he promised. Frank waited until they were in a deserted corridor before speaking. Renaissance Fertility Clinic went bankrupt 18 months ago. Their assets were liquidated, records supposedly destroyed. But I found something. He pulled out a tablet, fingers flying across the screen. A nurse who worked there, Patricia Mills, she disappeared the same month the clinic shut down. But before she vanished, she made a deposit. $500,000. Cash. She sold my sample. It looks that way, but here's where it gets darker. Frank swiped to a new screen showing a bank statement. The money came from an LLC registered to Harrington Medical Group. You know who sits on their board? Ethan's jaw clenched. "Tell me." "Victoria Stratton." The name hit him like a physical blow. Victoria Stratton. Old money, older grudges. She'd wanted to merge their companies 3 years ago, wanted to merge their families. When Ethan refused both her business proposal and her personal advances, she'd made it clear the Strattons didn't forget slights. She bought my genetic material and did what with it? Created a designer baby? That's my guess. Used a surrogate who couldn't fight back. Maya Dawson has no family, no resources, no paper trail before she showed up pregnant at a women's shelter 9 months ago. The perfect target. And when Maya got attached to the baby, they dumped her, left her to die rather than risk her causing problems. Frank's expression darkened. But they didn't count on you finding her. Ethan's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. "Mr. Corleone." The woman's voice was smooth, cultured, poisonous. "I believe you have something that belongs to me." "Victoria. You mean the child you tried to steal using my stolen genetic material?" Ethan's voice could have cut glass. "Steal is such an ugly word. I prefer commissioned, and that surrogate signed a contract. The baby is mine, legally. The courts will crucify you when they find out what you did." A pause. Then a laugh, sharp and brittle. "Will they? A respected philanthropist versus a homeless woman and a man whose desperation for an heir is well documented? Who do you think they'll believe created this situation?" The line went dead. Ethan stood frozen, rage and fear warring in his chest. Behind him, through the glass, his son slept peacefully in his incubator. Down the hall, Maya lay unconscious, unaware that the people who'd used her were coming back to finish what they started. "Frank," Ethan said quietly, "double security on both of them, and get me Catherine Hale." "The attorney? The Barracuda?" Ethan's eyes hardened. "If Victoria Stratton wants a war, she's about to learn why you don't threaten a Corleone's family, even if that family was only a few hours old." Maya's eyes opened to fluorescent lights and the smell of antiseptic. For a moment, she couldn't remember where she was, Couldn't remember anything except rain and pain and the certainty that she was dying. Then she remembered the baby. Her hand flew to her stomach, finding only flatness and bandages. A scream built in her throat. "He's safe." The voice came from the corner of the room, deep and steady. "Your son is safe." Maya's head whipped toward the sound. A man sat in the visitor's chair, expensive suit rumpled, dark circles under his eyes, like he hadn't slept. He looked familiar, the face from the rain, the stranger who'd carried her. "Where is he?" Her voice came out as a rasp. "Where's my baby?" "Niku. He's small but strong. The doctors say he'll be fine." The man leaned forward, and Maya saw something raw in his expression. "My name is Ethan Corleone. I'm the one who brought you here. I can't pay. I'm not asking you to." He stood, moving closer but stopping at a respectful distance. "Maya, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. How did you get pregnant?" Her hand instinctively moved to her empty stomach again. "What? Because that baby is mine." The words hung in the air like smoke. Maya stared at him, her mind racing. "That's impossible. We never. I know. But 3 years ago, I stored genetic material at a fertility clinic. Someone stole it. Someone used it to create that baby. And then they implanted him in you." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Tell me what happened." "Please." Maya's eyes filled with tears. The memories crashed back, the ones she'd tried so hard to bury. "I was living in a shelter. 8 months ago. This woman came, said she was from a medical research company, said they'd pay $50,000 if I'd be a surrogate. Carry a baby for a couple who couldn't have children." "What was her name?" "Patricia something. She said it was all legal, all safe. Said the couple was desperate." Maya's voice broke. "I was desperate too. $50,000 could have changed my life. I could have gone back to school, gotten my nursing degree. I thought I was helping someone. What happened to the money? I never got it. Patricia gave me $5,000 up front, said the rest would come after delivery. But then," Maya's hands trembled, "then I felt him kick, felt him move inside me. And I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't give him away." Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, his expression softening. "So you ran?" "I tried, but they found me. Twice. Said I signed a contract, said the baby wasn't mine. The second time they got rough, told me I was just an incubator, that someone like me didn't deserve a child." Tears streamed down her face. "So I disappeared, lived on the streets where they couldn't find me. I thought if I could just hold on until he was born, I could figure something out. But then the contractions started and I found you." Their eyes met, and something passed between them, an understanding born of shared desperation. Two people who'd wanted the same thing for different reasons. Two people who had been used by the same monsters. "They're coming for him," Maya whispered. "The woman who hired Patricia. She called me once, Victoria something, said I'd signed away my rights, that I'd never see him again. Victoria Stratton." Ethan's voice turned to steel. "I know. She called me too. She's powerful, rich, connected." Maya's voice cracked with hopelessness. "What chance do we have?" Ethan reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he took her hand. "I'm rich too, and I've never lost a fight I actually cared about winning." His grip tightened. "They used both of us, Maya. They stole from me and they tried to destroy you. But that baby in the NICU, he's ours, not theirs. And I will burn down everything I own before I let them take him." "Wait." Maya searched his face. "Why would you fight for a baby you never wanted? For a woman you don't even know?" "Because I've spent 3 years wanting a child more than anything in the world. And you spent 9 months protecting him with everything you had." Ethan's voice roughened. "That makes us his parents, not Victoria, not some contract signed under duress. Us." A knock at the door interrupted them. Catherine Hale swept in, razor-sharp suit, sharper eyes, a legal pad under her arm. "Mr. Corleone, Ms. Dawson, we have a problem." "What now?" "Victoria Stratton just filed an emergency custody petition. She's claiming Maya entered a legally binding surrogacy agreement and is now attempting to kidnap the child. The hearing is tomorrow morning." Maya felt the room spin. "Tomorrow? But the baby just—" "I know it's fast. That's intentional. She's hoping you'll be too weak to fight." Catherine's expression hardened. "But here's what she doesn't know. That contract? It's garbage, coerced, fraudulent, and based on stolen genetic material. We can tear it apart." "Can we win?" Ethan asked. "Honestly, it's 50-50. She has money, influence, and a sympathetic narrative. We have the truth." Catherine looked between them. "But there's one thing that might tip the scales in our favor." "What?" "If you two present as a united front, not just biologically connected to the baby, but emotionally invested, together." She paused meaningfully. "The courts love stable family units." Maya and Ethan looked at each other, the implications sinking in. "You mean pretend we're—" Maya started. "I mean convince a judge that this child has 2 parents who want him, who'll fight for him. Together." Outside, storm clouds gathered again, and in the hallway, a nurse who'd been listening pulled out her phone and sent a text to Victoria Stratton. The war had begun. The courtroom was cold, not from temperature, but from the way power and privilege seemed to frost over every surface. Maya sat beside Ethan at the defendant's table, her hospital discharge bracelet still on her wrist, her body aching from surgery just 36 hours ago. She wore borrowed clothes from a boutique Ethan had somehow procured overnight, a modest navy dress that made her look respectable, maternal, worthy. Across the aisle, Victoria Stratton sat like a queen holding court, silver hair perfectly coiffed, diamonds glittering at her throat, a Chanel suit that probably cost more than Maya had earned in her entire life. She didn't even glance in their direction. She didn't have to. Her lawyer, a man whose retainer alone could buy a house, did the glancing for her, his smile predatory. Judge Morrison entered, and the battle began. "Your Honor," Victoria's lawyer stood, his voice smooth as silk. "This is a simple matter of contract law. Ms. Dawson entered a legal surrogacy agreement with my client. She was paid for her services. The child she carried was never hers, biologically or legally. My client has documentation proving—" "Documentation based on stolen genetic material," Catherine interrupted, rising. "Mr. Corleone never consented to his samples being used. This entire surrogacy was predicated on fraud and theft. Mr. Corleone's consent is irrelevant. He wasn't party to the surrogacy contract. Because he didn't know about it." Judge Morrison raised a hand. "I'll hear testimony. Call your first witness." Victoria's lawyer smiled. "I call Patricia Mills." Maya's blood turned to ice. Patricia, the nurse who'd recruited her, walked into the courtroom looking nothing like the friendly woman from the shelter. She wore a conservative suit, her hair pulled back, every inch the professional medical worker. "Ms. Mills, you facilitated the surrogacy agreement between Ms. Dawson and my client, correct?" "Yes. Ms. Dawson came to us seeking financial assistance. When we offered her the opportunity to help a family in need while earning compensation, she eagerly agreed." "Eagerly?" Maya half rose from her seat, but Ethan's hand on her arm stopped her. "And did Ms. Dawson understand the terms of the agreement?" "Completely. She signed multiple documents, underwent psychological evaluation, confirmed she understood the baby would not be hers to keep." "That's a lie." Maya couldn't stay silent anymore. "You said $5,000 up front, $45,000 after delivery. You said it was legal. You never—" "Ms. Dawson," Judge Morrison's voice cut through. "You'll have your chance to testify." Catherine stood. "Your Honor, if I may cross-examine." "Proceed." Catherine approached Patricia with the calm of a lioness stalking prey. "Ms. Mills, you said Ms. Dawson underwent psychological evaluation. Where are those records?" Patricia hesitated. "They were lost when the clinic closed." "Convenient. And the contract Ms. Dawson supposedly signed, was she given a copy?" "She should have received a—" "Should have. But did she?" Catherine's voice sharpened. "Did you give a homeless woman with no permanent address a copy of a legal document that would terminate her parental rights?" I assumed—" "You assumed a desperate woman wouldn't read the fine print. You assumed she'd disappear after taking your money. You assumed wrong." Catherine pulled out a document. "This is a deposition from Dr. James Chen at the Renaissance Fertility Clinic. Before it closed, he discovered irregularities in record-keeping, patient samples being accessed without authorization. He filed a complaint with the medical board 3 days before the clinic suddenly went bankrupt." Victoria's composure cracked, just slightly. "Objection!" Her lawyer jumped up. "This is speculation and—" "It's evidence of a pattern of criminal activity," Catherine countered. "Ms. Mills didn't facilitate illegal surrogacy. She participated in genetic theft and human trafficking." The courtroom erupted. Judge Morrison's gavel cracked like thunder. "Order, Ms. Hale. That's a serious accusation." "It's a serious crime, Your Honor, and we have proof." Catherine turned to Ethan. "Mr. Corleone, would you please tell the court about the phone call you received?" Ethan stood, his presence commanding even in the stuffy courtroom. "2 nights ago, Victoria Stratton called me. She said, and I quote, that surrogates signed a contract. The baby is mine legally. Not, I have a legal claim through surrogacy. Not, the child was promised to me. She said the baby is hers. So she revealed she knew about the surrogacy before I found Maya, which means she wasn't a passive recipient of a service. She orchestrated it." Ethan's voice hardened. "She purchased stolen genetic material, paid for a vulnerable woman to be implanted with it, and planned to take the child once he was born. When Maya couldn't go through with giving him up, Victoria had her thrown out. Left her to die on the streets rather than risk exposure." Victoria stood abruptly. "That's absurd. I was promised a child through legal channels. If there were irregularities, I was unaware. Then why did you pay Patricia Mills $500,000 in cash?" Catherine dropped the bank records on the table. "Right before the clinic conveniently went bankrupt, and all records were destroyed?" The silence was deafening. Judge Morrison leaned forward. "Ms. Stratton, did you have prior knowledge of how the genetic material was obtained?" Victoria's lawyer whispered urgently in her ear, but her composure was gone. Years of careful planning, of pulling strings from the shadows, crumbling under the weight of evidence. "I wanted a child," she said finally, her voice cold. "I wanted the perfect child. Corleone genetics, intelligence, business acumen, looks, combined with a surrogate who'd produce an exotic appearance that would make the child stand out. I paid for what I wanted." Maya felt sick. "Exotic appearance? You mean you wanted him to look mixed race because it was fashionable?" "I wanted what was mine by right of purchase." "Enough!" Judge Morrison's gavel slammed down. "Ms. Stratton, you've just admitted to conspiracy to commit genetic theft, fraud, and human trafficking. Bailiff, take her into custody." The courtroom exploded into chaos. Victoria screamed as bailiffs approached. Her lawyer scrambled for his briefcase. Patricia Mills tried to slip out, but was blocked by security. Through it all, Ethan pulled Maya close, his arm around her shoulders as she shook with the weight of vindication and horror combined. "It's over," he whispered. "She can't hurt you anymore." But Maya pulled back, looking up at him with tears streaming down her face. "What happens now? To the baby? To us?" Ethan's hand came up to cup her face, a gesture so tender it stole her breath. Now we become the family he deserves. But we don't even know each other. Then we learn." His thumb brushed away her tears. "We have time, Maya. All the time in the world." Judge Morrison cleared his throat. "Mr. Corleone, Ms. Dawson, given the extraordinary circumstances, I'm granting you joint custody of the minor child, pending permanent arrangements. But I'll be watching this case closely. That baby deserves stability." "He'll have it," Ethan promised, his eyes never leaving Maya's. "I swear to you, he'll have everything." For the first time in 9 months, Maya let herself breathe. 3 weeks later, Maya stood in the nursery of Ethan's penthouse, watching their son sleep in a crib that probably cost more than a car. Moonlight filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a city that had once been her prison and was now somehow becoming home. They'd named him Gabriel. Ethan had suggested it one night during a 2 a.m. feeding, both of them exhausted and covered in spit-up. And Maya had cried because it was perfect. Gabriel Corleone Dawson, a name that honored both of them. "Can't sleep?" Ethan's voice came from the doorway, soft so as not to wake the baby. Maya turned. He wore pajama pants and a t-shirt, looking nothing like the powerful businessman from the courtroom. Just a tired father who'd been up 3 times already tonight. "I keep thinking I'll wake up and this will all be gone. That I'll be back on that street corner." Ethan crossed the room, standing beside her at the crib. "That's not going to happen. You don't know that." "Yes, I do." He looked at her, and something in his expression made her heart skip. "Because I won't let it." Over the past 3 weeks, they'd fallen into a routine, awkward at first, then gradually more natural. Shared feedings, tag-team diaper changes, Ethan teaching her how to use the espresso machine while she taught him how to properly burp a baby. Small moments that felt bigger than they should. But Maya knew it couldn't last. She was living in a fantasy, playing house in a penthouse with a man so far above her station that it was laughable. Eventually, reality would intrude. It intruded the next morning. "Mr. Corleone, you have a visitor." Frank's voice over the intercom was tight with tension. "Your brother." Maya saw Ethan's entire body stiffen. "I don't have a half-brother, Dominic Vega. He's very insistent." The man who entered the penthouse looked like a darker version of Ethan. Same height, same build, but with harder edges and eyes that calculated everything they saw. He took in Maya with a single dismissive glance before focusing on Ethan. So it's true. You actually kept the baby. Dominic, what are you doing here? Cleaning up your mess. Dominic pulled out a tablet, tapping the screen. Do you have any idea what your little courtroom drama did to Corleone Industries? Victoria Stratton's family is on the board. They're calling for your removal as CEO. Stock prices have dropped 15%. Our investors are spooked. Then they can be spooked. I'm not apologizing for protecting my son. Your son? Dominic's laugh was cruel. You mean the product of theft and an illegal surrogacy that's now plastered across every tabloid in the country? You've made us a laughingstock, Ethan. Maya felt her chest tighten. She'd seen the headlines, the photos of her leaving the courthouse. Former homeless woman plays Cinderella. Gold digger traps billionaire with stolen baby. The comments were worse. Get out, Ethan said quietly. Not until you hear me out. The board is willing to forgive this indiscretion. But you need to do damage control. Give the woman a settlement, arrange for the child to be raised quietly by professionals, and distance yourself publicly. Show some leadership. The woman has a name, Maya, and Gabriel isn't a problem to be managed. Dominic's eyes narrowed. You're sleeping with her, aren't you? God, Ethan, could you be more predictable? You got lonely, she got desperate, and now you're playing happy family. But this isn't sustainable. She doesn't belong in your world. That's enough. Look at her. Dominic gestured at Maya like she wasn't there. 6 months ago, she was homeless. No education, no prospects, no future. You think she loves you? She loves what you can provide. The moment someone offers her cash, she'll disappear with that baby, and you'll never see either of them again. Maya flinched like she'd been slapped. Get the hell out of my home, Ethan growled, stepping between them. Now. Fine, but the board meets in 48 hours. They're voting on your removal. When they succeed, all of this, he gestured at the penthouse, at Maya, at everything, disappears. And she'll disappear with it. The door slammed behind him, leaving silence heavy as stone. Maya couldn't look at Ethan, couldn't bear to see agreement in his eyes the moment when he realized his half-brother was right. She turned toward the nursery. I should check on Gabriel. Maya, wait. He's right, isn't he? She spun back, tears burning. I don't belong here. I'm destroying your life, your company, everything you built. That's not... Maybe I should take the settlement. Take Gabriel somewhere quiet where the media can't find us. Let you rebuild without us dragging you down. Is that what you want? Ethan's voice was raw. What I want doesn't matter. I'm a homeless woman who... Stop calling yourself that! Ethan crossed the room, his hands gripping her shoulders. You're Gabriel's mother. You're the woman who protected him when everyone else wanted to treat him like property. His phone rang. Catherine's name flashed on the screen. Don't answer it, Maya whispered. But he did, and she watched his face drain of color as he listened. When? How many? A pause. I see. Thank you for the warning. He hung up slowly, like the phone weighed 1,000 pounds. What is it? Victoria Stratton made bail. Her lawyer found a technicality. Ethan's jaw clenched. And she's filed a new lawsuit. Claims emotional distress, defamation, illegal seizure of property. She's suing for $50 million and renewed custody rights. Maya felt the floor drop out from under her. She can't. The judge said, she can tie us up in court for years, drain resources, make our lives hell. Ethan's hands dropped from her shoulders. And she will, Because that's what people like Victoria do when they lose. They burn everything down. So Dominic was right. I'm ruining your life. Maya, I need to think. She backed toward the nursery, her heart shattering. I need to figure out what's best for Gabriel. For everyone. She left him standing in the living room, looking more lost than she'd ever seen him. That night, Maya sat in the nursery rocking Gabriel, tears streaming silently down her face. She'd survived homelessness, survived betrayal, survived childbirth, alone in the rain, but she didn't know if she could survive loving two people she'd have to leave. Through the doorway, she could see Ethan on his balcony, phone pressed to his ear, trying to save his company, trying to save them all. But some things, Maya knew, couldn't be saved. Sometimes love meant letting go. Maya packed at 3 a.m. when she knew Ethan was finally asleep in his study after another 18-hour day fighting for his company. One small duffel bag, the clothes he'd bought her, bottles for Gabriel, the few things that mattered. She moved silently through the penthouse that had somehow become home, memorizing details she'd never see again. Gabriel slept in her arms, wrapped in the soft blue blanket Ethan had chosen. She'd written a note, a pathetic, inadequate explanation that wouldn't make anything better, but was all she had to give. Ethan, I'm not running because I don't care. I'm running because I do. You and Gabriel both deserve better than the destruction I'm bringing into your lives. There's money in my account from the small allowance you set up. Enough for us to start over somewhere quiet. I'll send you pictures. I'll let you be his father. But I can't be the reason you lose everything you built. Thank you for saving us. I'm sorry I couldn't save you back. Him. She was at the front door when the lights blazed on. Were you even going to say goodbye? Maya spun. Ethan stood in the hallway, still dressed, looking like he hadn't slept at all. His eyes were red-rimmed but blazing with something between fury and devastation. I thought you were asleep. You thought wrong. He moved closer, and she backed against the door. Or maybe you were hoping I wouldn't notice until morning, until you were too far gone to find. It's better this way. Better? His voice cracked. Better for who, Maya? For Gabriel to grow up without his father? For me to lose both of you? For you to run again when running is what got you on that street corner in the first place? I'm protecting you. I don't need protection. I need you. The words exploded out of him, raw and desperate. God, Maya, do you really not see it? These past 3 weeks haven't been me playing house or doing charity. I've been falling in love with you. The world stopped spinning. You don't mean that, Maya whispered. I've never meant anything more in my life. Ethan reached up, framing her face with trembling hands. I fell in love with your strength, with the way you sing to Gabriel at 2 a.m., with how you laugh at my terrible dad jokes, with your courage and your kindness, and the way you see the best in people even after everything you've been through. Ethan, I'm nobody. You're everything. His forehead pressed against hers. And if you walk out that door, you're not protecting me. You're destroying me, because I already lost my parents, already spent years alone in this empty penthouse. I finally have a family, Maya. I finally have something worth fighting for. Don't take that away. Tears streamed down her face. Your company can burn. I'll build another one. I'll flip burgers if I have to. His voice roughened. But I can't build another you. Another us. What if I'm not strong enough? What if I let you down? Then we fail together. Ethan pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. "Do you love me? Even a little?" Maya's breath hitched. She'd been so afraid to name the feeling growing in her chest. The way her heart lifted every time Ethan walked into a room. The way his smile made her feel like maybe she deserved good things after all. "I love you so much, it terrifies me," she confessed. "I didn't think I was allowed to." "You're allowed. You're so allowed." Ethan's thumb brushed away her tears. "Stay. Fight with me. Not because you owe me, but because you want to. Because we're stronger together than apart." Gabriel stirred in Maya's arms, making the small sounds that meant he'd wake soon. They both looked down at him, the tiny miracle that had brought them together. "He needs both of us," Maya whispered. "We all need each other." Maya's arms had just begun to relax when her phone buzzed. She almost ignored it, but the name on the screen made her freeze. "Unknown. Number. I have information about Victoria Stratton. Information that can end this. Meet me at Mercy Hospital, parking garage level 3. Come alone. A friend." "What is it?" Ethan asked, seeing her expression change. Maya showed him the message. His jaw tightened. "It's a trap. Or it's someone who can help us." "Maya, no. We're not playing games with Victoria's people. What if it's real? What if this person has proof that destroys her case?" Maya's grip on Gabriel tightened. "I can't run, Ethan. You're right. But I also can't just wait while she circles us like a shark. We need to fight. And if this gives us ammunition, we have to take the chance." Ethan pulled out his phone. "Then we go together. And Frank comes with us." The message said alone, "I don't care." His hand found hers, squeezing. "We're done doing things alone. Both of us. From now on, it's together or not at all." Maya looked down at their joined hands, then at Gabriel sleeping peacefully between them, then back up at Ethan's determined face. Something inside her chest unlocked, the last defense she'd been holding on to, the last wall between fear and hope. "Together," she agreed. An hour later, they stood in the dim parking garage, Gabriel safe at home with Frank's most trusted security guard. Frank himself lurked in the shadows, watching for threats. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting everything in sickly green. A figure emerged from behind a concrete pillar. Female, medium height, face hidden by a hood. "You came." The voice was familiar, but Maya couldn't place it. "Who are you?" Ethan demanded. The woman pulled back her hood. Patricia Mills, the nurse who'd testified for Victoria. "Before you run or call the cops, listen." Patricia's hands shook as she pulled a USB drive from her pocket. "I lied in court. Victoria paid me to lie. But I can't do this anymore. I can't be part of destroying a family." "Why should we believe you?" Maya asked. "Because I have proof. Every transaction, every communication. Every order Victoria gave about getting rid of you when you wouldn't comply." Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "She told me to make sure you delivered alone, on the streets, where there'd be no witnesses if something went wrong. I didn't know she meant. I didn't think she'd actually let you die," Ethan finished coldly. Patricia nodded. "This drive has everything. Bank records, emails, recorded phone calls, enough to put Victoria away and end her lawsuits. I'm turning state's evidence. But I wanted you to have this first, so you'd know you're safe." She pressed the drive into Maya's hand and stepped back. Maya whispered. "Why help us now?" Patricia looked at her with something like regret. Because I saw the way you fought for that baby in court. The way he fought for you. Some things matter more than money. She glanced at Ethan. You two have something real. Don't let people like Victoria or me destroy it. She turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows. Maya stared at the USB drive in her palm, a tiny piece of plastic that held their freedom. Ethan's arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her close. It's over, really over. We still have to get through the board meeting, but let them vote me out. I have enough saved to last 3 lifetimes. We'll be fine. He turned her to face him. Maya, I meant what I said earlier. The company doesn't matter. Only you and Gabriel matter. She reached up, touching his face with wonder. How did I get so lucky? Lucky? You were dying in the rain 3 weeks ago. And you found me. Her smile was watery, but real. That's the luckiest moment of my life. Ethan kissed her then, soft and sure and full of promises neither of them had to speak aloud. When they pulled apart, the future stretched ahead of them, uncertain but no longer terrifying. Because they'd face it together. The boardroom of Corleone Industries looked like a gladiatorial arena. 23 board members sat around the massive table, their faces ranging from sympathetic to hostile. At the head sat Dominic Vega, smug satisfaction radiating from him like cheap cologne. He'd orchestrated this coup masterfully, used Ethan's personal crisis to position himself as the responsible choice, the leader who wouldn't let sentiment destroy shareholder value. Ethan entered with Maya at his side, their hands linked. Whispers erupted immediately. She wore a simple black dress, elegant but understated, and carried herself with quiet dignity that made her more powerful than any designer label could. Ethan, Dominic's smile was razor-sharp. I'm surprised you brought a guest to your execution. Maya's not a guest. She's family, and family stands together. Ethan pulled out a chair for her, then took his own seat at the opposite end of the table. Shall we begin? Dominic stood, clicking a remote. A presentation appeared on the screen behind him, graphs showing declining stock prices, headlines about the courtroom scandal, analyst reports predicting Corleone Industries' downfall. Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence speaks for itself. Under Ethan's leadership, this company has become a circus. His personal choices have cost us billions in market value and the confidence of our investors. The Stratton family alone has pulled 3 major contracts. We're hemorrhaging money and credibility. The Stratton family is facing federal charges, Ethan interjected calmly. Charges that wouldn't exist if you hadn't made this personal. If you'd handled the surrogacy situation quietly, discreetly, like an adult. You mean abandon my son? Ethan's voice could have cut glass. Pretend he doesn't exist, so Victoria Stratton could steal a child created from my stolen genetic material? I mean, prioritize the company over your ego. Maya felt Ethan tense beside her, but she squeezed his hand. He'd told her this morning that he was done fighting for people who couldn't see what mattered. But she knew he'd built this company from nothing, that it represented years of his life. She stood, surprising everyone, including Ethan. Ms. Dawson, this is a closed board meeting. Dominic started. I know what it is, and I know what you all think of me. Maya's voice was steady despite her racing heart. You think I'm a gold digger, a homeless woman who trapped a billionaire. Maybe some of you even think Ethan's lost his mind. Several board members had the grace to look uncomfortable. But here's what you don't know. 3 weeks ago, I would have agreed with you. I would have walked away and let Ethan rebuild without me. Because I thought that's what love was. Sacrificing yourself so the other person could be happy. She looked at Ethan, her eyes shining. But he taught me that real love isn't about sacrifice. It's about choosing each other every day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. This is very touching, Dominic interrupted. But it doesn't change the fact I'm not finished. Maya's tone made him close his mouth. You want to vote Ethan out because he chose family over profit. Because he fought for what was right instead of what was easy. But that's exactly why he should lead this company. She pulled out her phone, connecting it to the boardroom display. Patricia's USB drive contents appeared on the screen. Emails, bank transfers, recorded conversations. This is evidence of Victoria Stratton's criminal enterprise. Genetic theft. Human trafficking, fraud. She targeted Ethan because he refused her merger proposal 3 years ago. This wasn't a business decision gone wrong. It was revenge. Dominic's smirk faltered as the evidence scrolled past. Ethan could have covered this up. He could have paid me off, sent Gabriel away, and pretended none of it happened. Instead, he exposed corruption at the highest levels of your business community. He showed that some things, like children, like family, like basic human decency, matter more than stock prices. Maya clicked to the final slide, a statement from the FBI thanking Ethan for his cooperation in their investigation of fertility clinic fraud networks. Because of Ethan's actions, 6 other women who were trafficked and exploited have been found and reunited with their children. 12 executives involved in genetic theft schemes have been arrested, and Victoria Stratton's entire criminal network has been dismantled. The room was silent. So yes, stock prices dropped, headlines were messy, but Ethan Corleone did something more valuable than protecting your investments. Maya's voice strengthened. He protected the vulnerable. He stood up to power. He showed the world that Corleone Industries is led by a man with integrity. She looked directly at Dominic. If you vote him out, you're not protecting this company. You're destroying the very thing that makes it worth leading. Maya sat down, her heart pounding. Ethan's hand found hers under the table, squeezing so tight it almost hurt. The oldest board member, Margaret Chen, cleared her throat. May I see those documents more closely? For the next hour, the board reviewed Patricia's evidence, whispered conversations, shocked faces, and slowly, gradually, Dominic's confident sneer transformed into panic. I didn't know the full extent, he stammered. You didn't care, Margaret said coldly. You saw an opportunity to seize power and took it. But you forgot something important. She looked at Ethan. This company was built on loyalty and integrity. Ethan's father would be proud of the man his son has become. She stood. I move that we table the vote for Ethan's removal and instead investigate Dominic Vega's communications with the Stratton family during this crisis. Second, another board member called immediately. Dominic's face went ashen. You can't, You were colluding with criminals, Margaret said. Security, please escort Mr. Vega from the building. As Dominic was led out, protesting and threatening lawsuits, Margaret turned to Ethan. I apologize on behalf of the board. We should have trusted your judgment. You should have trusted that family comes first, Ethan corrected gently. Always. Margaret smiled. Noted. Now, I believe we have a company to run. And Mr. Corleone, I think your first order of business should be establishing a corporate ethics division. Clearly, we need it. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. Ethan remained CEO, with expanded authority and a board resolution supporting his actions. As they left the building, Maya finally let herself breathe. I can't believe we won. We? Ethan pulled her close, right there on the sidewalk, with employees and reporters watching. Maya, you won that. I was ready to walk away. You reminded me, what we're fighting for. We're fighting for Gabriel. For us. For a future where people like Victoria don't win. Speaking of Gabriel, Ethan pulled a small box from his pocket. I was going to wait. Do this properly, with romance and planning. But I've learned that life doesn't wait for perfect moments. You create them. He opened the box. The ring inside was simple. A single diamond on a platinum band, elegant and unpretentious. Maya Dawson, you saved my life the night I found you. You gave me a son, a purpose, and a reason to be better than I was. Will you marry me? Not because we have to present a united front, not because it's practical, but because I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life choosing you. Maya's vision blurred with tears. You really want to marry a woman who lived in a cardboard box 4 weeks ago? I want to marry the strongest, bravest, most beautiful woman I've ever met, who happens to have terrible taste in temporary housing. She laughed through her tears. Yes, God, yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, and when he kissed her, the cameras flashed, and the crowd applauded, and none of it mattered, because their world had narrowed to just this moment, just them. When they finally pulled apart, Ethan whispered, "Ready to go home to our son?" "Our son," Maya repeated, loving the sound of it. "Let's go home." 6 months later, Maya stood in the garden of Ethan's estate, their estate now, watching the late spring sun paint everything golden. White chairs lined the lawn, filled with people who'd become family. Catherine Hale sat in the front row, dabbing at her eyes despite her tough exterior. Frank stood nearby, trying to look stern while clearly emotional. Even Margaret Chen had come, along with half the reformed Corleone Industries board. But the most important guest was in Maya's arms. Gabriel, now 7 months old, grabbed at her veil with chubby fists, gurgling happily. He wore a tiny tuxedo that Ethan had custom-made, complete with a bow tie he'd already half destroyed. "He's going to ruin your dress," Patricia Mills said softly from beside her. The former nurse had become an unlikely friend after her testimony put Victoria Stratton away for 15 years. She was rebuilding her life too: therapy, community service, and a new job at a women's shelter, helping others avoid the mistakes she'd made. "Let him. It's just fabric." Maya kissed Gabriel's forehead. "He's what matters." Music started, not a traditional wedding march, but a soft, acoustic guitar playing the lullaby Maya sang to Gabriel every night. Ethan had hired someone to arrange it specially. Through the French doors, she could see him waiting at the altar, and even from this distance, she could see the love in his eyes. "Ready?" Patricia asked. "I've been ready since the moment he found me in the rain." They walked together, Maya, Gabriel, and the woman who'd once been her enemy, but was now her redemption. It felt right, somehow. A full-circle moment that proved people could change, could choose better. As Maya reached the altar, Ethan's eyes were swimming. He reached for Gabriel first, pulling his son against his chest, then wrapped his other arm around Maya. "We're supposed to wait for the vows," the officiant said with a smile. "I've waited long enough," Ethan murmured, but he stepped back, keeping Gabriel nestled against his shoulder. The ceremony was simple. No pageantry, no excessive tradition. Just two people promising to choose each other, witnessed by a baby who represented every impossible thing they'd overcome. I, Ethan Corleone, take you, Maya Dawson, to be my wife, Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. I promise to see you, not where you came from, but who you are. I promise to stand beside you in every storm, to be your shelter when you need it, and your strength when yours falters. I promise to love you and Gabriel with everything I have, for all the days of my life. Maya's turn. She'd written her vows at 3 a.m. while nursing Gabriel, tears streaming down her face at the impossible beauty of her new life. I, Maya Dawson, take you, Ethan Corleone, to be my husband. You found me when I was lost. You saw worth in me when I saw nothing. You taught me that love isn't about deserving, it's about choosing. Her voice broke. I promise to choose you every day, in joy and in struggle. In wealth and in poverty, though hopefully not too much poverty because I've done that part. Laughter rippled through the crowd. I promise to be the partner you deserve, the mother Gabriel needs, and the woman I was always meant to be. I love you beyond words, beyond reason, beyond anything I thought possible. Gabriel chose that moment to grab Ethan's nose, making him laugh and breaking the solemnity into something more precious. Real life, messy and beautiful. By the power vested in me, the officiant said, grinning, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may. Ethan was already kissing her. Gabriel squished safely between them, protesting the squeeze with happy squeals. The reception was a blur of champagne and dancing, speeches that made everyone cry, and Gabriel being passed around like the most precious trophy. But Maya's favorite moment came later, when the guests had gone and it was just the three of them in the nursery. I have something for you, Ethan said, pulling out an envelope. Inside were 2 documents. The first was Gabriel's official birth certificate, both their names listed as parents, legal and permanent. The second made Maya's breath catch. You bought the shelter? The one where Patricia found me? I'm renovating it. Proper security, medical care, job training programs, child care, so mothers can work or go to school. Ethan's hand covered hers. I'm naming it Gabriel's house, because every person deserves the chance you took to fight for a better future. Maya threw her arms around him, unable to speak past the emotion clogging her throat. There's one more thing. Ethan pulled back, his expression vulnerable. I've been thinking about what you said, about nursing school, your dream of having a degree. Ethan, I can't possibly. You're enrolled, starting fall semester. We'll work it out. Daycare, my schedule, whatever you need. Because your dreams matter too, Maya. Not just Gabriel's, not just mine, yours. She kissed him then, pouring everything she couldn't say into that kiss. Thank you. I love you. I'm home. Gabriel babbled from his crib, reminding them he existed and required attention immediately. They pulled apart, laughing, and together they lifted their son. He smiled, that gummy, whole-face smile that made every sleepless night worth it, and reached for both of them with his small hands. I think he approves of the marriage, Maya said. Smart kid, takes after his mother. They stood there in the soft nursery light, the three of them wrapped in each other's arms, and Maya felt something she'd never thought she'd feel again. Peace. Not the absence of struggle, but the presence of love strong enough to weather any storm. 6 months ago, she'd been dying on a street corner, alone and afraid. Now she was a wife, a mother, a student with a future. She was loved and cherished, and seen for exactly who she was. "What are you thinking?" Ethan asked softly. Maya looked at her husband, then at their son, then out the window at the city lights twinkling in the distance, the same city that had once been her prison and was now her kingdom. "I'm thinking about how one rainy night changed everything, how the worst moment of my life led to the best. Fate, better than fate, choice." She squeezed his hand. "Every day we choose this, choose each other. Choose love." Gabriel yawned, settling against her chest, his breathing evening out into sleep. Ethan's arm came around them both, solid and sure. "Every day," he agreed. "For the rest of our lives." Outside, rain began to fall, soft and gentle, nothing like the storm that had brought them together. But Maya didn't flinch. She'd never fear the rain again, because now she knew, sometimes the storm doesn't destroy you. Sometimes it brings you home.